Hi, Mindy.
Hi, Mylene. How are
How
you?
are you doing? I'm very good. Yourself?
I'm doing great. Even though you say it's summer here, it's actually winter, which I want to point out to everyone watching this. I'm wearing a sweater. I live in Arizona, so she thinks we don't have winter here, and we do. I wouldn't be wearing a sweater if we didn't have winter.
Very good. Point taken. So, we're here today. We're going to discuss your amazing coaching program that's called CORE. So, before we dig into that, can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you became a coach, your journey as an entrepreneur, how you got to ditch your Fortune 100 huge gig?
Yeah, I like the way you say that, to ditch it. I'd be happy to talk about that. So I'm going to bring you back 10 years ago. And so that was 2007 at the point of this recording. It was 10 years ago. And I was living in Nairobi, Kenya on a fellowship at that time. And I had the chance to step away from my normal day-to-day routines, my normal life. And I said, is working for a Fortune 100 company really what I want to be doing for the rest of my life? And while there were tons of perks working there, there were great people, the pay was good, the work was challenging enough, but not too difficult. Really no complaints, except my soul wasn't being fed. I call it slow suicide to my soul. Because every day going back, I was like, I know that there's something more for me. I also felt like in corporate America, and I know, Mylene, you've seen this with the people that you work with, there's a cap. There's only so much money you can make, and there's only so much creativity you can have. I remember coming up with different ideas, and people would say, well, that's not the way we do things here.
Mm-hmm.
If they were more efficient and faster and smarter, they're like, that we're not interested in that. I'm like, well, that's not cool. So I knew I needed to get out of there. And thankfully there was this thing called coaching, professional coaching. Now you could think of that as life coaching, business coaching, career coaching. There's so many different categories that fall underneath this kind of broad idea of coaching. But back in 2007, I said, okay, I'm going to make a plan to leave corporate America within 1 year of returning back to the US. So I got back, I think it was that February. And in my case, I had a crazy story happen. It turned out that I ended up getting laid off from that company for the second time in a couple of years. And they said, hey, you're getting laid off, but we want you to move in about a year to Groton, Connecticut and just keep working. And I'm like, no, because I'm already planning to leave in a year. So this works out great. So I literally had about the same time frame that I was planning on anyway. But in my case, it was even better because they gave me a severance to kind of kick me out the door and get me started. So then early 2008, I'm out of that company and on my own. I have this crazy idea. I thought I'll move across the country. So I was in Michigan at the time, and I decided to move to Portland, Oregon. Very, very quickly, though, I realized that even though I felt like I was a good coach and I had done a lot of personal growth and a lot of my own study and reading, my background was in comparative religion and spirituality, so I used a lot of that to kind of be the beginning of my coaching practice, but I didn't know anything about business. So I'll kind of stop the story there because that that was the beginning of just getting into this field.
Good. So, and I know that you also did your PhD in art intelligence.
I did.
And sometimes it scares people just to think that there's brain cells in your heart and that you can think with your heart. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would love to. That, is my favorite topic to talk about. And you're right, I did do my dissertation on heart intelligence. And the reason that I chose that was because that's not my norm. A lot of people interview me these days and they say, oh, Mindie, is a heart expert and she's so good at living from her heart. And I'm like, no, actually I'm not. That's why I had to learn it. And that's really why I teach it too, because I have always relied on my head. My intellect has gotten me through all the crazy things in life. I did really well in school, and school was really easy for me. So I've always been, very at ease in terms of the intellectual realm. But what I realized getting older was that that isn't enough to have a very full and fulfilling life. You know, you can do great in school, but okay, so what? That doesn't help you in a marriage. Or, you know, you can do really well in certain other aspects that are purely intellectual, but those might not be, you know, an all-encompassing experience of life. And that's really what I wanted to have great relationships. I wanted to have amazing friendships. I wanted to have an incredibly successful business. So I really had to learn this heart stuff. And so it's truly just about getting out of your head. And when I mean that, when I say that, what I mean is in your head is where fear, worry, anxiety, depression, all the chatter that is just constantly going on, that's up here. And if you can learn how to drop out of that experience and reside more here. Now, this isn't an all the time experience. It's not like you do it once and then you're good to go. This is a constant, continual practice of reminding ourselves, oh yeah, I don't need to run everything from up here, because the heart, as they found, and you kind of led to this, Mylene, it's truly a control center. There is intelligence within that heart. There are brain cells within the heart. And what they found in modern science is that it actually can not only receive messages from the brain, but also send messages to the brain and to other organs. It can control a lot of the neurotransmitters that are secreted around the body. There's a lot of different things going on. And oh, by the way, when you're living from your heart, or even just experiencing that for a few minutes, you feel a lot better. Because in the heart, there's not fear and worry and all that stuff that I mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. In the heart, there's just peace and joy and love. And it's like, okay, I can just chill.
So it's not just esoteric stuff about intuition. It's all backed by science, fact proved, and everything.
Well, that's the coolest part, because, you know, to me, I'm a big skeptic. I'm not one of those woo-woo people that's like, hey, just, you know, live from your heart, everything's okay. To me, I want the facts. I want the answers. I want the data and the research. So even though this stuff has been spoken about for millennia, from the saints and the sages, everybody always said, you know, the heart is the seat of the soul. And they would talk about the heart is where the spirit resides. Well, now with our modern technology, they're able to finally realize, oh yeah, those guys were right. And here's why. Here's the data, here's the research, here's the technology that can showcase some of these things. So it's finally catching up with spirituality and religion and, you know, the texts that have been around forever. But now we do have the data to prove it, which is really, really cool.
Great. And I know that you led a retreat for a few years. And I believe that this is how Core Coaching Academy came up to life. By popular request.
Yes, you could say that. And thank you for doing your homework. I love being interviewed when people know what happened. So Heart Path is the retreat that I lead. It's still going on. It'll be back next year. Just had to take a little break this year since we went to Africa instead, but it will be ongoing. So Heart Path is a retreat that I do in Sedona, Arizona. And the whole purpose of Heart Path is to get clear, is the way I say it, get clear on why you're here. In other words, what is your purpose? What in the heck you're supposed to be doing in this lifetime? So as I would lead people through different exercises in getting clear on why they are here, a lot of them, and no surprise because they're attracted to my work and what I was doing, they'd be like, hey, Mindie, you know, I think I'd like to be a coach, or I think I'd like to do something like what you do, run workshops or retreats, or, you know, do some consulting. Where do I start? What should I begin with? And for the first few years that I heard that, I was kind of like, well, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of online courses that you could look into, or yeah, I don't really know. I didn't have a great place to send people. And honestly, if you would have asked me years ago, you know, do you think you'll be running a coaching school? I would have said no. You know, it's not what I foresaw at all. But request after request after request kept coming. Well, what did you do to start? You know, how did you begin? Can you just share with us a little bit of what got you going? And then I thought, okay, why not just create something that will be the answer to their question? And so in 2014 was when it was just a little baby pilot program. I said, I'm just going to try this out. I don't even know if it's something that I'll like doing. So I think there were maybe 6 people in that class, and it was very small. I was just testing out some content and material. And here's the crazy part is I loved it. I loved it. So I thought I actually kind of like doing this better than just general coaching. So I really, over the few years, shifted the whole bulk of my business to be mostly around core and about that. And what happened then is, and this is what's so fun about being an entrepreneur, is there's always the next thing, right? So people would go through core and then they'd be like, well, we want more. What's next? What do we do now? And so eventually I created a mastermind called Encore after that. So there's all different things, but yeah, it did truly just come by request. And I said, okay, let's try it. And I've been able to really just hone it in and make it awesome over the years.
Good. So as we discussed, most of the people who follow me are managers within corporate America. What's in it for them to join CORE?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, while I mostly am focused on the entrepreneur, I want to be clear about that, or realistically, the people who might like to become entrepreneurs, because I have a lot of people from corporate America that are still working in their full regular job. And they say, hey, I'd like to do this, maybe with just a little thought of, I'd like to maybe have a side business someday, or maybe eventually even leave that full-time experience in a corporate job and do their own thing. But the reality is this is super helpful for almost anybody. And that's not even my words. You can read the testimonials on the site and hear different students talking about that, because they've come from all different backgrounds. And I'll give you just one story to illustrate the point. I had a guy come through, and this was years ago. Maybe, he might have even been in that first class, but he is a project manager in engineering. And he said very clearly, I don't ever intend to be a coach. But he came through CORE because he wanted to get great at coaching. As a project manager, he's constantly overseeing, lots of people, and there's a ton of organization that needs to happen. And he wanted to be able to connect with those people really well and also really powerfully and elevate himself as a leader. So that's what he experienced in CORE, is just coming into his own more, developing his own leadership skills, and then learning about coaching techniques so that he could bring those back, to that corporate structure and have a really profound impact on his team. And that he's gone on to really succeed in that because of CORE.
That's awesome, because most of the time the C-level, the executive people will put in managing position their best players. And it's not because you are Wayne Gretzky that you are the best to bring people to their best.
I absolutely have had that experience. Where I worked before was a pharmaceutical company. And there were a lot of scientists that worked at this company. And the funny thing was, they kind of would just promote people based on how long they had been there. So if somebody had been there 5 or 10 years, they're like, oh, well, now, you should be a manager. When really that person might not have wanted to do anything with people. They wanted to be in the lab doing their science, but suddenly they were forced to manage a team, and they're like, what am I, I don't even know how to do this. I don't even like this, maybe. So it is really, really essential to have good coaching skills.
Excellent. And I've done my homework, as you know, and I've seen people calling CORE the anti-certification program, because there will be a lot of people who think, I don't have a master's degree, I don't have an MBA, how can I coach someone in business? Or I don't have your studies, how can I do what you do? So How is CORE getting to that imposter syndrome?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I do call it the anti-certification program, because my frustration with the coaching industry is that there are tons of certification programs out there. And I don't think that a piece of paper makes you a good coach. I know people that have gone through certification and they have that little thing on their wall that says, I am certified. And honestly, I don't think that they're a great coach. So what I say is it's all about results. It doesn't matter to me what letters you have at the end of your name, if you have any letters at the end of your name. As far as I'm concerned, it's like alphabet soup. Like, we could just change around the letters and it means something else. So it really doesn't matter. Now, I will say for myself, I love school. I'm an academic. I'm an intellectual. So I love it. And I've gone through a lot of different courses. So like technically, yeah, I have a bunch of different letters at the end of my name, but so what? Because anytime, 100%, a client comes to me, they don't say, "Oh, Mindie, where did you get your coaching certification?" Or, "Oh, Mindie, where did you do your MFA?" Like, it doesn't matter, because I'm not there to be a professor in an academic situation. And if I can showcase results to them, that's what they want. They're like, "Cool, where do I send the money?" So what I do is I just tell stories about past clients that I've worked with and different experiences that I've learned along the way. And through that, they're like, "Oh yeah, I can see the value in this." And my thing as a coach is that it's not like therapy. Some people get those two confused. And a lot of times people spend a lot of money and a ton of time in therapy when it's something that we've handled in coaching within 1 month. Like, I've had testimonials that say I spent, almost 10 years in therapy and so much money. And then I came to Mindie's program and really got myself together within 1 month, 4 weeks. So my thing is, I want you to be as awesome as you possibly can be. And then like go out and be awesome. Like, you don't have to rely on me. I don't want that dependence that I think sometimes therapy can cause. So I am all about, self-reliance and independence. And I'm saying, hey, let's rock, get you together, and then go. And that does not require certification. That just requires you being a rock star as a human being and creating results for your clients.
That's amazing and truly inspiring. And I'm sure you know that there's tons of coaching programs out there. And I don't think that the point is to determine if core is the best or blah, blah, blah. But what I really don't like about online courses is there's no practice. You pay, you sit behind your computer, you watch videos, you take notes. If you're lucky, you have a handbook. But after that, what's next? What do I do?
It's so true. And honestly, the way to become a great coach is to coach. So how can you become a great coach if you are not actually coaching? And so I think that that's very important. And as you're alluding to, I put that into part of the core curriculum is actually coaching. Now, we start really easy. Maybe just the students are coaching each other, doing a little bit of peer coaching. And then I will introduce them to other people that are not in the program. So then it's like a little bit, those people still know kind of what's going on, and they'll be very gentle and nice if needed. But, it's all about working up that scale of becoming an incredible coach. But you have to be coaching to do that. And, just to your point about a workbook or a handbook or things like that, I will be very frank with you. And my students get really pissed about this. They always say, "Mindie, will you just give us some worksheets or, something to follow or something to do?" And I always say no. The reason is because I'm not teaching them to follow a worksheet. It's one thing, and this is, I think, what some coaching certifications do. They give you the book, and then when you come to a coaching session, you're like, "Okay, yes, Mylene, okay, you said this, so let me see what that's not coaching. That's not engaging with the client. That's not entering into that heart space that is intuitive." You alluded to that before, and I'm not going to get into it too much here, but there is this intuitive space that you can enter into as a coach, and just like you're in sync with that person. And that's what I teach them, how to trust that, how to listen to that, because that's going to be a more profound experience for their client 100 times over than following a worksheet and saying, "Okay, well, the next question is ...
Let's follow my sheet. Let's follow my questions. No, that's not the right questions.
Exactly. You might have some great questions on that sheet, but I want them engaged with where that client is right now, not based on what the paper says.
Excellent. So basically, what do we get when we press the button, when we purchase Core, because there's three. What are we getting?
Yeah, and I told Mylene I'm totally cheating. I said, there's so much stuff that you guys get. I have to pull up my cheat sheet here to see what's on the registration page. So what you get, there are 3 levels. And at the most basic, it's called Core Basic, you get 12 weeks of online salons. That's what I call them. Basically, it's video training. You can do that on your own pace, on your own time, whenever you get around to it. And that's January through March. You have 1 month then of implementation. That was another piece that I looked around at other coaching programs, and I said, they get all this stuff, this idea, you know, all the ideas and the things to do, but they don't actually have time to do them in the course. And then what I saw a lot of times is that those things never actually got done. So I built in a whole month just for implementation. So you'll actually have a structured program of what to do and how to do it. So you'll know all the answers to that going into your, you know, potential new career. You also get a live event, which is here in the desert, and it will be a beautiful time of year. It will be May, so it won't be too hot. Some people are very scared of coming to Arizona in the summertime, but May is really nice. There's also a Facebook group, which is private just for students. It's both alumni and current students, and that is honestly one of my favorite parts about it because people get so connected. I just did a bunch of interviews with former students actually the last few weeks, and I was saying, you know, like, what are you doing now? And so many of them said, you know, I'm still in touch with all those people. We still hop on the phone together. We still jump on a Zoom call together to help each other in our business or to just, you know, do practice coaching or whatever. I'm like, that's awesome. So there's a really, really great, beautiful, amazing community. And that is kind of centered in that Facebook group. You also get monthly Q&A calls directly with me. So that would be a group setting on Zoom like this. We'd get everybody on camera and just see how it's going, see what questions come up. And I'm always there to answer those. Now that's all in that basic level. If you want to kind of up the ante for yourself and really just dig into your own personal development, I would highly recommend going up to Core Plus. Now you get everything in basic, so everything I just said is included. But additionally, you get an extra monthly call with me for more practice coaching. So that's even more helpful to you. You also get sessions with volunteers that I pull from my following to bring to you and say, hey, this is going to be your practice client for the day. And you can do sessions with them, which again, to be a great coach, you have to be coaching. So that's super helpful in that regard. You also get 6 one-on-one sessions with one of my coaches. And these coaches have all come through Core themselves and then gone on for additional training with me. So they're all people that I hand select and quite honestly match, you know, very specifically with each student in Core Plus, because I want everybody to have the most amazing experience. So I will hand pick each person and match them. So you basically have your own coach to walk you through the program. They've done Core years ago, so they know what the program is. They will guide you through it. And also, you know, just work on a lot of your own stuff, which is great. Then, as a bonus, you also get a free ticket to HeartPath, which we mentioned earlier. That will be coming up in the fall next year. So free ticket to that. And then finally, there's one more level, which is very, very brief, but that's called Core Platinum. And you get all the stuff that I've just mentioned in both categories, except your one-on-one sessions are with me directly. And I would say that takes a little bit of bravery. I've had a client in the past who actually started at the Core Plus level and then ended up going to the mastermind and other training with me. But she said, you know, Mindie, I don't know if I was ready for you at the beginning. I'm known for tough love, and you know, I make I don't hesitate to say that openly, and I like to just see what I see, let people know, and like let's get on with it. So that may not be for everybody, and that's totally okay. But if you are ready for that, you know, higher level experience, you can coach directly with me. That's in Core Platinum, and you also get text access to me. I'm super. I don't want to say private because that sounds like, I don't know, that sounds weird, but I am very anal retentive, maybe, about who has my cell phone number and who can interact with me just in terms of my time and my focus. So those people get direct text access to me, and that's pretty awesome, because then if there's any question, any time of day, I'm like, hey, here's what to do. And finally, there's one more bonus for that platinum level, which is a free ticket to an event coming up next summer called Lucrative Speaker. That's put on by my husband, Sean, and Mylene, you know him. And
we love Sean.
we love Sean. So Lucrative Speaker is all about essentially making great money as a keynote speaker. And the reason I bonus that in, people may say, well, Mindie, this is about coaching, not speaking. They are so complementary. I do some speaking. Sean, who is mostly a speaker, does a lot of coaching. So, they really go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. I think it's so helpful to have kind of that overarching perspective of really getting the good information on both sides of the scale. So that is what you get.
And I believe anyways, learning to speak in front of a group and to make your point and to build a presentation, I sincerely believe that no matter what you do, it's a great skill to have. Even if you choose to stay in corporate, you're going to have, this is key to advancement in your career anyway.
Totally, because even in corporate, you're going to maybe be giving presentations. You might be interviewing for a higher level job. You might be interviewing other people to come into, work for you. Whatever that context, you're still speaking to people. So a lot of those principles, whether you're on stage or, one-on-one, they still apply.
So you get to speak in front of a bunch of people and engage with them with your teachings.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun too. I will add that in, is that, Sean, he's a wild and hilarious guy. So it's always a really, really good time. So like I said, that's a bonus for that platinum level. And, or you could just come on your own, but you're going to save a lot of money if you do both.
Excellent. Is there anything else that we did not cover?
What I would say is I always want people to really be sure of what they're getting into. So I actually give them 1 month of the program that is 100% risk-free. So let's say somebody signs up and then they get it, it's January, they're going through the thing, and then they're like, this isn't really what I was looking for, or it's not really what I want. By the end of January, if they let me know, I will give them back all of their money, because I believe in my product and I want everybody else to as well. So I'm not going to, hold money or anything like that. So they literally have 1 month to just check it out risk-free. Now, the only caveat to that is that if they're in that Core Plus level and they're getting mentor sessions from one of my coaches, I pay those coaches to do that. So it would be minus the amount how many sessions that they've had. So not a big deal, but mostly 100% totally risk-free. I want people to love it. And if they don't, I'm happy to give them their money back.
Excellent. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Absolutely.
So everybody, please reach out, watch the video, click on the link, and go see what's up with Core, because I believe it's a great program for anyone who wants to connect better anyways in their life. Thank you very much, Mindie.
Thank you.